It started like any other Tuesday. Emails, Slack messages, leftover coffee from the pot Jason had made too strong that morning. I was working from home as usual. The house was quiet except for the occasional clatter from Jason's room. He was 10, smart as hell, and already better with computers than I was at that age. We were supposed to go over a science project after lunch. I was scrolling through my inbox when a pop-up caught my eye. Alert, savings account balance below minimum threshold. I clicked on it, assuming it was a glitch. That account was supposed to be untouched, the college fund for Jason. We'd started it the year he was born. Every birthday check, every tax return, a percentage of every bonus, it all went in there. But the balance said something else. $4.13. I blinked. Refreshed the page. Same number. I sat there for a second, feeling the kind of slow, creeping panic that doesn't hit all at once. I clicked into the account history. Withdrawals. Multiple. All in the past 2 weeks. Hotel charges. Flights. One from a boutique jewelry store in Miami. My stomach dropped. I grabbed my phone and called Laura. No answer. I tried again. Straight to voicemail. The third time I didn't even let it ring out. I just stared at the screen, not really breathing. I tried to remember the last time she mentioned a trip. She hadn't. But she had been distant lately. Texting late at night. Smiling at things she wouldn't share. I thought maybe she was just stressed from work. I was wrong. I went back to the account details. There were over a dozen transactions, 5-star hotels, private car services, flights to places like Cabo, Vegas, Turks, and Caicos. And every single one of them was linked to our joint savings. Jason's future. She took it. She drained the entire account. I sat there for I don't know how long, just staring at the screen, trying to understand how the woman I married, the mother of our son, could do something like this. And not just leave, but take that from him. I didn't hear Jason come in. Dad, he said, like nothing had happened. You want to see the thing I made? I turned to him, trying to rearrange my face. Yeah, buddy. In a second. He walked over, holding his tablet. It's a solar tracker. I made it talk to Alexa now. That's great, Jazz, I said, trying to focus. Hey, have you heard from Mom today? He shrugged. Not really. She texted good morning, I think. You miss her. He paused. Thought about it. Then shrugged again. I guess. It was something about the way he said it. So detached. So calm. Like it didn't even register that she hadn't come home last night. Or the night before. She'd been staying late at work a lot lately. At least, that's what she said. Hey, I asked carefully, you okay? Jason looked up at me. Yeah, Dad. I'm fine. No emotion. No sadness. Not even a flicker of confusion. Just those steady, calm eyes staring right through me. And for the first time that day, I felt something colder than betrayal. I felt afraid. Not for me. For him. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I tossed around on the couch, staring at the ceiling, my mind spinning through every conversation Laura and I had in the last few months. Every late night. Every half-truth. Every damn don't wait up. And through all of it, Jason slept like a rock. I checked on him 3 times. Once around midnight, then again at 3, and once just before sunrise. He was curled up in his blanket, his tablet still glowing faintly on the nightstand, playing some coding tutorial on loop. I kept expecting to find him crying. Or confused. Or angry. But he was just fine. Too fine. By morning, I knew for sure. Laura wasn't coming back. Her side of the closet was half empty. One suitcase gone. The expensive one she only used when she was serious about a trip. Most of her jewelry? Gone too. Toothbrush, makeup bag, passport, all missing. I stood in the doorway, staring at the bare space between her hangers, feeling like I'd walked into the end of a movie I didn't know we were in. Downstairs, I heard Jason's footsteps. I made coffee automatically, out of habit, and he walked in like it was any other school day. Hoodie, socks, hair a mess. Morning, he said. Hey, I replied. Sleep okay? Yeah, he said. He grabbed a banana from the counter, peeled it halfway, and looked at me. You look tired. I forced a smile. Didn't sleep much. Because of Mom? I froze. I hadn't told him anything. I hadn't said a word about the account. Or the suitcase. Or the fact that his mom might be on a beach somewhere with a man named Damien sipping something with a paper umbrella in it. You know something's going on? I asked him carefully. He shrugged, biting into the banana. I figured. I waited for more. For any emotion. Any hint that he was hurting. But he just walked over to the table, sat down, and pulled out his laptop. Like it was any other Thursday. I sat across from him. Jason, it's okay to be upset. You know that, right? He didn't look up. Yeah. I know. I watched him for a long moment. The way his fingers moved across the keyboard. The way he clicked open his files with surgical precision. Like none of this touched him. Like he'd already moved on. "You're not angry?" I asked. He paused barely for a second. Then she made a choice. That was all he said. He closed his laptop, stood up, and walked back upstairs. Like he had finished a thought and there was no reason to keep talking. I sat there for a long time. I tried calling Laura again. Still no answer. Voicemail every time. Her inbox was full. I checked her social media, all profiles gone or deactivated. I even called her office pretending to be a client. "She's no longer with the company," the receptionist said. "No notice. No forwarding contact. Just gone. She didn't just leave us. She erased herself." That afternoon, Jason sat in the living room watching some old sci-fi movie on mute while sketching diagrams in a spiral notebook. I caught a glimpse, angles, arrows, something that looked like a circuit layout. "You working on a project?" I asked. He nodded but didn't explain. And maybe it was just my paranoia or maybe it was something else, but I noticed the way he glanced at me when I asked. Not nervously. Just measuring. Like he was deciding how much I needed to know. That night, I stood outside his room for a long time before finally knocking. "You need anything?" I asked through the door. "Nope," came his voice. Calm. Steady. "Okay," I said. "Let me know if you do." I went back downstairs and sat in the kitchen with the lights off, staring at the fridge, wondering when the hell my kid had learned how to hide his emotions better than I could. Something about this didn't sit right. Something deeper than Laura leaving. Deeper than the money. Jason wasn't just calm. He was prepared. The next couple of days passed in a blur. I went through the motions, made meals, checked work emails, answered Jason's teachers when they called to say he hadn't logged in for class. I told them he was adjusting to a family change. It wasn't a lie. Just didn't include the part where his mother had vanished and taken a 5-figure college fund with her. Jason barely seemed to notice. If anything, he was busier than usual. Always in his room or the garage, bouncing between his laptop and some kind of project he wouldn't explain. I'd knock occasionally, ask if he wanted dinner or if he wanted to talk. He'd always say the same thing. "I'm good, Dad." And he always sounded like he meant it. By Friday evening, my curiosity got the better of me. He was out back feeding the neighbor's cat, some deal he worked out last summer, and I figured I'd take a look in the garage just to see what he was up to. What I saw made my stomach twist. There was a whiteboard against the far wall, filled with diagrams. Not schoolwork. Not science project stuff. This was detailed, lines connecting names, arrows, boxes with words like Account 1, Flagged, Damien, Suspicious Behavior, Flight Pattern, and Known Alias, D, Cross. It looked like something out of a detective show. Right down to the push pins and string. There were notes about financial transfers, email traces, metadata timestamps. On the table beside the whiteboard sat a disassembled phone, a soldering kit, and what looked like a DIY listening device made from a pair of earbuds and a battery pack. A tiny circuit board blinked softly beside it. This wasn't schoolwork. I took a step back, heart pounding. "Dad?" I turned. Jason stood in the doorway holding a half-empty bag of cat treats. "I was just checking," I said quickly. I didn't mean to snoop. He didn't look angry. Just stared at me for a second, then walked in slowly and set the bag down. "You weren't supposed to see that," he said quietly. "Yeah, I gathered." We stood there in silence. Me trying to figure out what to say, him just watching me like he was waiting to see how I'd react. "Is this for school?" I asked finally, motioning toward the whiteboard. He shook his head. "No." "What is it, then?" Jason looked down, fiddled with a wire on the table, then said, "It's a system. I've been tracking where the money went. Where she went. What Damien does." I blinked. "You've been tracking your mom?" He nodded. "I thought you were doing schoolwork or coding or Jason, this is serious. This is beyond serious. You're spying on people." "I'm not spying," he said. "I'm collecting data." "Where did you learn how to do this?" He shrugged. "YouTube. Forums. I've been studying it for a while." "A while." I repeated. "How long?" Jason hesitated. "Since the first time Mom changed her phone password and wouldn't tell you." I stared at him, trying to process that. That was 6 months ago. 6 months and he never said a word. "You built a tracker?" I asked slowly. "I cloned her emails," he replied. "I used a phishing app to get into her Gmail. She used the same 2 passwords for everything. Once I got in, I copied the flight confirmation she got from Damien's account. Then I traced Damien's old LinkedIn. He used to be in finance. That history? Fired for misappropriation of client funds. I just stood there. My 10-year-old son was casually walking me through a full-blown digital investigation. Calm as ever. Like it was nothing. Jason, I said, lowering my voice. Why didn't you tell me? He looked up at me. Because I wasn't ready yet. And I didn't want you to stop me. I felt sick. Not because of what he said, but because I realized he was right. If he'd told me earlier, I would have shut it down immediately. Called the school counselor. Taken away the laptop. Tried to protect him. And I would have missed everything he found. This is dangerous, I said. What if she finds out? Or he does? You don't know what these people are capable of. Jason nodded slowly. I know. Then why keep doing it? He looked at me with that same calm, unsettling confidence he'd had all week. Because someone has to fix it. I opened my mouth to respond, but I didn't have anything. What could I say? He started gathering up his tools again like the conversation was over. You're 10, I said quietly. I'm 10, he agreed. And you're doing things even I don't understand. He didn't respond. Just kept adjusting wires and clicking through folders on his tablet. I wanted to shout. I wanted to hug him. I wanted to take away the weight that had clearly settled on his shoulders. But instead, I stepped back and said the only thing that felt honest. I'm worried about you. Jason didn't look up, but his voice was steady. I'm not the one you should be worried about. Then he picked up a pair of safety goggles, slid them over his head, and went back to work. I watched him for another minute. Then I quietly stepped out of the garage, closed the door, and locked it behind me, not to keep him in, but to keep whatever he was preparing for out. It was a little after 3 in the afternoon. I was cleaning out the junk drawer in the kitchen, not because it needed it, but because it gave my hands something to do. Jason was upstairs. I hadn't seen him in over an hour, and at this point, I knew better than to knock. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Almost let it go to voicemail like I had the dozen other spam calls that week. But something made me swipe. Hello? For a second, nothing. Then a voice I hadn't heard in over a week. Alex. I froze. Laura. She sounded different. Not like herself. Her voice was thin, raw, like she'd been crying or screaming, maybe both. I know I shouldn't have called, she said quickly, but I didn't know who else to it. Where are you? I cut in. Where the hell have you been? Silence. Then a long, shaky breath. I'm in a hotel in Tampa, she said. I messed up, Alex. I laughed. Not because it was funny, just because it was such a pathetic understatement. You emptied our son's college fund, Laura. You stole from your own family. I didn't mean to, she said. It wasn't like that at first. Damien, he said we'd start something new. A clean break. But then he just disappeared. Left me here with nothing. Good, I snapped. You deserve nothing. I know, she said, and her voice cracked. I know I do. I'm sorry. I didn't call for forgiveness. I just didn't know where else to go. I sat down slowly, staring at the wall. How long were you planning this? I asked. Was any of it real the last few months? I didn't plan anything, she said, desperate. It just happened. I was so angry all the time, and Damien made it feel like there was still something out there for me. I let the silence hang between us. Then, without warning, Jason walked into the kitchen. He glanced at the phone in my hand, then at my face. Is that her? He asked quietly. I didn't answer. I just put the phone on speaker and set it on the counter. Laura must have heard his voice. Jason, she said, suddenly hopeful. Baby, I'm so sorry. Don't call me that, Jason said. His voice didn't shake. He didn't even blink. He just stood there in his socks and hoodie, looking at the phone like it was a bug under glass. I know what you did, he said calmly. I know about the withdrawals, the fake invoices, the tickets. Damien's trail wasn't even hard to follow. Jason, she breathed. You don't understand, I understand perfectly, he cut in. You picked a man you barely knew over your own family. You thought no one would notice. You thought I wouldn't notice. I opened my mouth to stop him, but he held up a hand, not rudely, just firmly. I've already started fixing it, he continued. The bank transactions. The emails. The flags on Damien's accounts. You're not invisible. There was a long pause. Wait, Laura said slowly. What do you mean fixing? Jason didn't answer right away. He just looked at the phone like it wasn't a person on the other end, but a puzzle. Something to solve. I mean, I reversed most of the transactions, he said. And I reported Damien to the Financial Crimes Division in New York. His name's already in the system. What? Her voice broke into a panicked whisper. Jason, no, you can't. Do you know what you've done? Yeah, he said. I protected my future. Her breath hitched. Do you understand what happens now? To me? Jason stared at the phone. His voice, when he finally spoke again, was colder than I'd ever heard it. You made your choice, Mom. This is what it costs. She started sobbing. Not quiet tears, full, broken gasps that echoed off the walls. But Jason just stood there unmoved. I reached for the phone, about to end the call, but Jason got there first. He picked it up gently and held it for a second. Then he said very clearly, "Don't call again." He hung up. We stood there for a while in silence. Finally, I said, "You didn't have to do that." Jason looked up at me. Yes, I did. And for the first time, I saw it, not just intelligence, not just control. Resolve. Hard and sharp. My son wasn't just reacting. He was executing a plan. The next morning started like any other. Jason made toast, blackened the first slice like always, then ate the second one standing at the counter, flipping through something on his tablet. I pretended to be casual, sipping coffee and checking the news, but my eyes kept drifting to him. He was calm, focused, like he just finished a big homework assignment and was already working on the next one. But I couldn't ignore the tight knot in my chest. The one that had been sitting there since yesterday, ever since I heard him tell his mother, flat out, "You made your choice." After breakfast, he headed to the garage without a word. I waited 15 minutes before I followed him. "Hey," I said, knocking lightly. He didn't look up from his table. "Hey, you got a second?" He paused, then nodded, setting his screwdriver down and wiping his hands with an old t-shirt. I walked in slowly, eyeing the setup around him. The whiteboard was even more filled out than before. He'd added photos now. Damien's LinkedIn profile. A screenshot of a bank login page. A map with red pins along the East Coast. "I need you to explain something to me," I said, folding my arms. "No games. No vague answers." Jason nodded once. "Okay. What exactly have you been doing?" He motioned to the tablet on the workbench and pulled up a file. I tracked Mom and Damien's spending through our shared accounts. Most of the withdrawals were rerouted into Damien's personal business account. From there, he moved some of it into an offshore holding company in Belize. I blinked. "You're telling me you traced stolen money through offshore banking?" "It wasn't hard," he said. Damien reused passwords across multiple platforms. I ran some brute force scripts until I got access to his inbox. Once I was in, I got the recovery keys for his accounts. I sat down heavily on an old stool. "Jesus, Jason?" He kept going like he was presenting a science fair project. After that, I contacted the financial crimes reporting system, the real one, not the scam one, and submitted a formal fraud complaint. I provided screenshots, timestamps, login metadata, and evidence that the money was taken under false pretenses. "Since Mom's name is on the accounts, she's linked to it too." "You reported your own mother to the feds," I said slowly. He met my eyes. "She stole from me." I didn't know what to say. I wanted to yell, or hug him, or shake him. But I just sat there, the words choking in my throat. He turned back to the tablet. "The funds are in a holding state now. They'll either get frozen or partially returned depending on what the investigation finds." I submitted a secondary claim through the Education Trust Protection Program so the money from the 529 plan might be restored sooner. "Jesus, Jason," I said again. "You've done more in a week than I did in this whole mess." Jason didn't respond. He was back to his notes, flipping through spreadsheets. "I don't even know if what you did is legal," I added. "It's not illegal," he replied without looking up. "I didn't hack. I accessed accounts using open credentials and publicly available tools. I didn't steal anything. I exposed theft." I rubbed my temples. "That's not how the world works." Jason finally turned to me again. "That's how their world works. People like Damien use loopholes. They depend on people like you and me not doing anything. But I'm not letting them win." "But what happens if the authorities come asking questions? If they trace the access back to our house?" "I masked the IP," he said simply. "And I used a VPN with a random node generator. They'd have to subpoena a server farm in Iceland to get close." I stared at him. "You're 10. He shrugged. "Jason, this isn't just about recovering money. You're implicating your mom. That's going to stick." "She made her choice," he said, flat. "She knew what she was doing." I stood up, pacing the garage. I don't even know how to feel right now. You're doing the job of an entire investigation team, and I didn't even notice." "You weren't supposed to," he said. I stopped pacing. Jason put down the tablet, wiped his hands again, and looked up at me. "You want to know why I did it?" he asked. I nodded. "Because you weren't going to," he said. "You still believed she could come back. That maybe it was all a mistake. But it wasn't. She walked out. She took everything. And you were still trying to protect her." "That's not fair," I said, more to myself than to him. "It's the truth," he said. We stood there, father and son, in a cluttered garage filled with wires and blueprints and the weight of everything Laura had broken. I don't want you doing anything else, I said quietly. No more digging. No more reporting. Let the authorities handle it from here. Jason didn't respond. Promise me, I added. He looked at me for a long time. Then he said okay, but I didn't believe him. Not really, because in his eyes I could still see it, that fire. That quiet certainty. My son hadn't just defended himself. He'd gone to war. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon. Too quiet. The kind of stillness that comes after a storm but before you realize there's another one on the horizon. Jason was in the garage again. I didn't ask what he was working on. After everything he'd revealed, I wasn't sure I wanted to know, and he wasn't offering. The whiteboard was still there, now with sticky notes layered on top of the original diagrams like he was updating a blueprint mid-battle. I was in the kitchen cleaning dishes when my phone rang. Blocked number. My stomach turned. I answered. Hello? There was a pause. Then a low voice I didn't recognize but instantly understood. Is this Alex? Who's asking? You know who I am, he said. Let's not waste time. I walked into the living room, shut the door to the kitchen, and lowered my voice. Damien. Smart kid, he said. Too smart. That's the problem. There was a buzzing in my ears. I forced myself to sit down before my knees gave out. What do you want? You need to get your son to back off, he said, like he was asking me to lower the volume on a TV. He's poking around in things he doesn't understand. He's making noise. You mean he's exposing what you did, I said. He chuckled. Kid's a little genius, huh? I'll admit I underestimated him. Cute little tricks with the bank reports. Clever. But here's the thing, Alex, he keeps pushing, he's gonna get someone hurt. My chest tightened. Is that a threat? It's a warning, Damien said, casual. I don't want problems. I'm already dealing with some fallout. Lawyers, frozen funds, all that fun stuff. I'd hate for things to get worse for your family. You already made things worse. Look, he said, sighing like this was an inconvenience. Tell him to stop. If he wants to play spy games, let him stick to video games. You and I both know the real world doesn't work like that. My hand clenched into a fist. If you come near my son. I don't need to come near him, he said coldly. I've already seen enough. You think this is over? It's not. I've still got cards to play. And with that, the line went dead. I just sat there. For a long time. I must have looked pale because when Jason came in, he stopped mid-step. Who is that, he asked. I looked up at him, unsure of how much to tell. Damien. Jason didn't flinch. What did he say? He told me to get you to stop, I said quietly. That you're making noise. Jason walked over, calm as ever, and sat across from me. Did he say how he got your number? No. He's bluffing, Jason said. If he had any real leverage, he would have used it by now. Jason, you're 10. He looked at me like that fact had long since stopped mattering. And I'm scared, I said. He knows who you are. He's desperate. Desperate people make mistakes, Jason replied. And when they do, I'll be ready. I stood up, pacing. No. That's not your job. It's not your fight. Jason crossed his arms. It became my fight the second she chose him. I turned to him, trying to stay calm. You've done enough. More than anyone should. Let the authorities handle it from here. Let them take care of him. Jason stood too. They won't move fast enough. They never do. You don't know that. I do, he said. I've been reading the response times on white-collar crime investigations. They can take months. Sometimes years. By then he'll have moved the money again, changed names, vanished. He walked to the garage door and opened it. Where are you going? To finish the next step, he said without turning around. Jason, He looked back. Don't worry, Dad. I'm not going to do anything illegal. That's not what I'm worried about. I know, he said. Then he paused just for a second. I'm not afraid of him. And then he closed the door behind him. I stood there for a long time, listening to the soft hum of machines in the garage, wondering how the hell my son had become the one protecting me. Wondering what he meant by the next step. And fearing that whatever it was already in motion. It happened on a Tuesday. A boring, rainy, nothing special Tuesday. I had just come home from picking up a grocery order when I saw the black car parked at the curb. Windows tinted, engine idling. My stomach dropped before I even got out of the truck. I knew it was him. Jason was in the garage again. I could hear the low whir of his 3D printer from the driveway. Probably printing another custom part for whatever surveillance device he was building. I didn't want to drag him into this. But I also knew I wouldn't be able to stop it. Not now. I was halfway up the front steps when the car door opened. Damien. He stepped out slow, like he had all the time in the world. Dressed like he was headed to a business meeting, navy blazer, designer shoes, the whole image. Except he didn't look clean anymore. His beard was patchy. his collar crooked, his eyes tired and sharp at the same time. He walked right up the porch steps and stopped 3 feet from me. "You Alex?" "You know I am." He nodded, lips pressed into a thin, fake smile. "Then you also know why I'm here." "I know my kid exposed you," I said. "And now you're grasping." His smile faded. "You think this is a game? Your son humiliated me. He cost me real money. Real contacts. I had deals lined up, backers, now they're gone. Thanks to him. Thanks to you," I snapped. "You stole from us. You dragged my wife into it." Damien snorted. "Your wife begged to be dragged." Before I could respond, the garage door creaked open behind us. Jason stepped out, hands in the pockets of his hoodie. Calm. Steady. He didn't look surprised to see Damien. If anything, he looked ready. Damien turned when he heard the door. And when he saw Jason, something in him twitched. "So you're the little hacker," he said. Jason didn't flinch. "And you're the thief." I stepped forward. "Jason, go inside." "No," Jason said. "He came for me." Damien's jaw clenched. "Kid, you don't understand what you've done." Jason stepped down onto the driveway slowly. "I understand exactly what I've done. I exposed you. I traced every transaction. Every dummy company. Every dollar you tried to hide. I reported all of it." Damien shook his head. "You're bluffing." Jason pulled out a USB stick from his pocket. "Here's a copy of everything. The authorities already have it, but I thought you might like to see it too." Damien stared at it like it was radioactive. "You have no idea what world you're stepping into." Jason's voice dropped to a whisper. "You have no idea what kind of kid you mess with." Then, faint in the distance, sirens. Getting closer. Damien turned his head toward the sound, jaw tight. "You called the cops?" Jason shrugged. "They called us. Said they had more questions. I told them they might want to come by. Thought you'd show up eventually." Damien looked at me, then back at Jason. And for the first time, I saw it. Fear. Not much, but just enough. He stepped back once. Then again. Like he was deciding whether to run. But it was too late. 2 cruisers turned the corner and pulled up fast. Doors flew open and 3 officers stepped out, weapons holstered but hands hovering just close enough. "Damien Cross," the lead officer called. Damien didn't move. "You're under arrest for wire fraud, identity theft, and interstate financial crimes." Jason handed the USB drive to the nearest officer. "Backup copy." They moved in on Damien fast, cuffed him before he could say a word. As they read him his rights, he glanced back at Jason one more time. Not with hate. With disbelief. Like he still couldn't quite believe it had been a 10-year-old who brought him down. Then they shoved him in the back seat of the cruiser. The silence afterward was heavy. Jason turned to me. "Told you the authorities would come around eventually." I stared at him, completely floored. "Jason, what did you do?" He looked at me, not smiling, not gloating, just calm. "I made sure he couldn't hurt us anymore." I sat down hard on the porch steps, my legs suddenly useless. And as I watched the cruiser drive off with Damien in the back seat, sirens fading into the drizzle, I realized something I hadn't wanted to admit. Jason didn't just fight back. He won. But at what cost? Because I didn't recognize the look in his eyes anymore. The house was quiet again. No more sirens. No more strange cars parked across the street. Just rain against the windows and the low hum of Jason's air purifier running in his room upstairs. Damien was gone. Arrested. Taken away in handcuffs, muttering threats that no one cared to write down. The police left with bags of evidence and firm handshakes, thanking Jason for his cooperation. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt hollow. Jason hadn't said much since that afternoon. He went straight back to the garage after the cops left, like it was just another task checked off his list. Just another step in a long plan he'd been executing without anyone's knowledge. That night, I reheated leftovers. Jason barely touched his plate. He sat there drawing on his tablet, his eyes heavy, but his fingers still moving fast, like he was chasing another idea he couldn't shake loose. "You should rest," I said finally. "I'm fine. You did a big thing, Jason. A dangerous thing. It's okay to stop now." He looked up, like the concept of stopping hadn't occurred to him. "There's still stuff to fix," he said. "Like what?" He didn't answer. I started to push again, but before I could, my phone rang. Laura. Again. I almost let it go to voicemail. I had ignored the last few attempts, but something told me this one would be different. Jason looked at the screen too. "You can answer it," he said. "I don't care." I picked up. "Hello." Her voice was shaky. "They came to the hotel. They talked to me." "Good," I said flatly. "Alex, they said I might be charged too." "You should be." I didn't know he was going to take that much. I thought it was temporary. I swear. No, Laura, I said. You knew exactly what he was. You just thought you were smart enough to survive it. She went quiet. I need help, she said finally. Please. I don't have anyone else. Jason looked up at me, watching. You don't have me, I said. Not anymore. You'd let the mother of your child go to jail? I looked over at Jason. He doesn't have a mother. Not anymore. Silence. Then Jason leaned in a little. Put her on speaker. I did. Jason, she asked. Baby, I didn't mean for this. Stop, he said. Just stop. Her voice caught in her throat. You're not sorry, he said. You're just scared. You were fine lying to Dad, to me, until things fell apart. I was trying to get out, she said. I wanted a new life. You already had a life, Jason said. You just didn't want it. I had never heard him speak that way. Cold. Direct. Not yelling. Just cutting through her words like they were nothing. Do you think we'll feel sorry for you now? He asked. I'm still your mom. No, Jason said. You're just someone we used to know. Then he reached across the table and ended the call. We sat there in silence for a while, the only sound the faint rumble of thunder outside. I tried to think of something to say. Something to bring him back down to earth. You sure you're okay? I asked quietly. Jason nodded once. Yeah. But I wasn't convinced. Something in him had shifted, something deep. The kid who used to cry when the neighbor's dog got sick now calmly dismantled criminal networks like it was homework. And he didn't seem to miss her. Not even a little. That night, I stood in the hallway outside his room, listening to the quiet click of his keyboard. He didn't sleep much anymore. Neither did I. Because while Damien was gone and Laura had finally hit the bottom of the hole she dug, I was starting to realize something far more unsettling. My son hadn't just learned how to survive betrayal. He'd learned how to weaponize it. It was a Wednesday afternoon when I realized I hadn't heard Jason speak more than 10 words all day. He wasn't sulking. Wasn't angry. Just working. Focused. Locked in. I knocked on the garage door before opening it. He didn't look up. Just kept adjusting the rotors on a small black drone about the size of a dinner plate. Wires coiled on the workbench. A small laptop nearby displayed a diagnostic interface I didn't even recognize. Is that what you've been building this week? I asked, stepping inside. Drone prototype, Jason said. Thermal camera, GPS override, remote control from mobile or desktop. Still tweaking the stability? I blinked. Why? He finally looked at me. Because it'll be useful. Maybe not now. But eventually. I stood there, not sure what to say. Jason, you know you don't have to fix everything, right? He wiped his hands on a rag and gave me a look, not annoyed, just tired. If I don't fix it, who will? That's not how being 10 works, I said softly. I don't feel 10, he said, then turned back to the drone. I walked over and sat on the stool across from him. You're not responsible for everything that goes wrong, Jason. You shouldn't have to keep doing this. There's nothing left to fix. He gave me a look I hadn't seen before. Not sad. Not angry. Pity. There's always something left, he said. You just haven't seen it yet. I rubbed my face. You should be out riding bikes or watching cartoons. Not designing surveillance drones in a garage. He shrugged. Those things don't fix problems. And this does. It helps. I wanted to push back, but the truth was everything he'd done had worked. Damien was arrested. The stolen funds were frozen and, according to a recent email from the bank, possibly recoverable. Even Laura's name was now officially part of an open investigation. All because of Jason. And yet, there was something cold creeping into him. Like all this victory had cost him something soft and important. You know this isn't normal, right? I asked. Jason didn't answer. You talk like an adult, you work like a tech engineer, but you're still a kid. I'm scared you're skipping over things you're not supposed to. He looked up then, his eyes steady. Would it have been better if I did nothing? Let Damien get away with it? Let Mom keep lying? No, I admitted. But there's a difference between solving a problem and turning into someone who can't stop. Jason thought about that for a moment. I don't know how to let things go, Dad. The way he said it, not dramatic, not even sad, just matter of fact. Like he was stating his height or blood type. I see something broken, I have to fix it. I can't stop thinking about it until I do. My brain won't let me. I exhaled slowly. That's a heavy thing to carry. He nodded. Yeah, but it's mine. We sat in silence for a bit. The drone blinked softly on the workbench between us. You did a lot of good, I said after a while. But I still worry what it's doing to you. Jason turned the drone slightly, adjusting one of the rotors. Don't worry about me. That's kind of the job description, I said. He smiled. Just for a second. You should work on something, too. Might help. With what? With feeling useless. It hit like a punch to the gut. Not because he meant it cruelly, he didn't. It was just honest. Jason was moving in a world I barely understood. One foot still in childhood, the other already halfway into something colder and sharper. And I wasn't sure how to reach him. As he connected the final wire and the drone lifted off the bench with a soft mechanical hum, I realized something else. My son had saved our family, but I wasn't sure what it had cost him to do it. It was the end of the week. The sky was overcast and the air smelled like damp leaves and pavement. Jason was in the garage again, fine-tuning the drone's altitude settings with the patience of a retired watchmaker. I watched him from the kitchen window for a while, just sipping coffee, wondering if he ever truly stopped thinking. That's when the phone rang. Her again. Laura. I thought about letting it go to voicemail. I really did. But something about the persistence, the sheer number of times she kept trying, made me pick up. Maybe I needed to hear whatever her last excuse was before I could truly shut the door. I answered. Yeah? Her voice was low and shaky. They're building a case. Good, I said flat. They told me I could face charges. Real time. I might lose everything. You already did. She went quiet. I didn't think it would go this far, she whispered. I didn't think he'd drag me down with him. Then you're even more naive than I thought. She sniffed. I'm scared, Alex. I rubbed my forehead. What exactly are you calling for? I need help, she said. I need a lawyer. I need someone who can talk to them, who can make this not ruin my life. I stared at the floor for a second, thinking of all the nights I'd lain awake wondering how she could walk away from us so easily. All the times I blamed myself, asked what I could have done differently, how I could have saved her from herself. Then I thought about Jason. No. Alex, you chose this. You left. You stole. You lied. And now you want me to save you. I wasn't thinking clearly. That's the only honest thing you've said. There was a pause and I could hear her try to steady her breath. I know I screwed up, she said. But I'm still Jason's mother. At that, I almost laughed. Almost? You were his mother. Now you're just a warning. That's when Jason walked in, holding the drone controller loosely in one hand. He heard enough to understand who I was talking to. Is that her? I nodded. She says she needs help. Jason walked over and took the phone gently from my hand. He didn't hesitate. You're not part of this family anymore, he said, calm as ever. And we're not going to pretend like you are. Jason, she tried, voice cracking. No, he said. You had a choice and you chose him. And now that he's gone, you want us to clean up the mess? You're not my responsibility anymore. Please, she started, but Jason cut her off. You don't get to say please after everything you did. And you definitely don't get to ask for a second chance just because you're scared. Then he ended the call. He handed the phone back to me and walked to the window, looking out at the garage. She's going to fall apart, I said softly. I know. And you're okay with that? Jason didn't answer right away. When he finally turned to me, his face was unreadable. She made her choices, Dad. I'm just letting her live with them. I looked at my son, really looked at him, and realized something hard and terrifying. He wasn't angry. He wasn't bitter. He was just done. Whatever part of him that might have wanted a mother, or forgiveness, or even closure, it had been sealed off. Replaced with something stronger, but colder. She was never going to fix this, Jason added. You were hoping she would. But people like her don't come back. They just find new people to hurt. I sat down, suddenly tired. You're not supposed to understand this stuff yet, I said. You're supposed to be a kid. Jason turned back toward the garage. Being a kid didn't help when she left. He opened the door and stepped outside, the light rain dotting his sweatshirt. He stood under the awning for a while, watching the sky like he was waiting for something to land. I watched him, this boy of mine who had saved us both. Who had built a wall so tall that nothing, not guilt, not regret, not love, could climb over it. I wanted to believe there was still a way back. That somewhere beneath the strategy and code and cold calculation, the soft-hearted little boy I used to read bedtime stories to was still there. But as Jason turned on the drone and launched it into the misty sky, his face lit only by the flickering screen in his hands, I finally let the truth in. He had saved us. But in the process, he had lost something I wasn't sure he'd ever get back. And as I watched him disappear into his next project, I couldn't help but wonder. One day when someone crosses him again, when something else breaks, how far will he go next time?